Okay, cool. So we are officially on the air, I guess.
Yay.
All right, so this is a podcast. It's called No One Cares About Your Band, where we talk to DIY people about not their band. We don't give a shit about your band. Tell us about what you're interested in. Tell us about what you like to do that's outside of music. Everybody talks about music. Everybody in the scene talks about music. And outside of that, nobody really talks about anything else for the most part, especially on like public forums like this. It's always music. It's always music or shit posting, basically.
True.
That is all we know.
Exactly.
All we know is music and shit posting.
So we will have some DIY talk at the top. But first of all, we can do some introductions. I am Ben. I'm in a band called Sweet Peach. I also help run Chillwave Records. And I basically tweeted about this podcast before I decided to make it, and then I felt obligated. So here we are. I have a co-host for at least the near future, Ellie Hart, who is surprisingly not on tour. So what's up, Ellie?
Nothing much. I am usually on tour. I run a nonprofit called Lead DIY, which stands for Lighting and Epilepsy Awareness Development. I'm in DIY scene. I'm, part of a thing of people that helps band do band stuff called We're Around Music. And yeah, that's pretty much all I do.
All right, awesome. Music and shit posting. We happen to have the king of both in the house, the person whose band we named the podcast for, or after, or something.
One of those.
Connor.
What's up, y'all? My name's Connor. I do booking at the Summit Shack, which is a DIY spot in BG that also throws festivals originally once a year and now once every 3 months. I drum in Soft Toss, which is a band with Alex Martin and Damien, and then I drum in Half Kidding, which is basically American Spirits and Floor Candy combined. I also do the We're Around Music thing that Ellie mentioned with Ellie and Alex Martin, and I also fill in for bands on drums. I've filled in for like 7 bands so far.
What a powerful combo! Aren't you like going to the UK soon or something like that?
Yeah, I made a joke post at Hit Like a Girl where I literally just said fill in for Hit Like a Girl 2020 challenge, just as like a bit. And Nicole messaged me and was like, on God. And I was like, on God. And they were like, do you want to come to the UK? And I was like, yeah, I'll go to the UK.
That's like a very Nicole move. I feel like I'm very not surprised that Nicole would just be like, yo, you want to fucking come on this tour? Like,
yeah, I just met them officially at Fest when I was filling in for World's Greatest Dad, and they thought I did an okay job.
Yay.
Awesome. I mean, obviously, they're taking you to an entire other continent. So that's dope.
Yeah, we're playing a booze cruise. I'm like very excited, like to play music on a boat and get sick and probably throw up.
You're basically entering an episode of The In-Betweeners.
Can't wait.
That's awesome.
Wonderful.
All right. So we do need to have some DIY talk first. I think Connor was at a gig last night, so I'm going to let you talk about that one first, because I think the one that I have to talk about, I have a little bit longer story about.
Yeah. Last night I drove to Fort Wayne, Indiana. It was only like 90 minutes, pretty short drive, to see Gami and Short Fictions. And it was a good gig. I got to see really good Short Fiction songs, and I got to see really good Gami songs, and I got to see some pals, and I got to meet Ryan Veith for the first time, the drummer of Short Fictions. Who is
Ryan Veith
Angel.
is one of my favorite people.
Holy moly, we love Ryan Veith.
Ryan Veith. This is a Ryan Veith podcast now. We're just gonna talk about Ryan. If you think you like Ryan Veith, name 27 of his jewels.
If you or a loved one have been positively impacted by Ryan Veith, you may be entitled to fulfillment.
I'll start the toll-free number. Although I'll start running ads on. Well, fuck, none of us have cable, so I guess that won't work.
Yeah.
Ryan Veith was the first DIY kid to really get along with my dad, the first of many, because Short Fiction stayed at my house almost 2 years ago. And Veith is the first of 4 or 5 people to just really get along with and love my dad. The second notable one is Roddy.
Oh my god.
So
That's
yeah.
a chaotic pairing.
It really is.
Roddy.
I really want to see the two of them in a
Honestly,
room together.
anybody in Roddy is a
I mean,
chaotic pairing.
Anybody in Ryan too, honestly. That
Yeah.
dude is. I mean, so I spent 9 days with short fictions over the summer, so I got like obviously a very like in-depth look at all of the members, and obviously like they're like the nicest band anybody's ever met. They're all like super generous and super nice people, but like just some of the shit that goes on in Ryan Veith's mind. I won't like spread shit on the podcast. It's nothing bad. It's just like human equivalent of shit posting.
I like to call it lotto balling, where you just have a million thoughts spinning around, and sometimes they just come out in a random order out of your mouth.
Yeah, that's about right.
You just got to get it out there. I feel it.
That's about right. I have a lot of love for short fictions and Gami, so that's a very great tour package and a very great gig. I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see them in the near future. Both of them actually. Okay.
Yeah, spill the smashed bass, floor caving, almost in tea that happened that I know nothing about.
I have a fucking yarn to spin. Let's put it that way. Holy shit. So, Snowing, the band, Snowing, you know, the emo one.
Snowing?
That one.
The emo band?
The emo band, famed emo band Snowing, played a gig at a place in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, which is like about an hour north of Philly last night. It was their first announced US show since I think 2016. I think they played a fest in 2016, which was just like a one-off. So in the past like 5 years, they've played 3 total gigs in the United States, and they went on tour in Japan. Snowing's playing their first US gig in 5 years, give or take, or second US gig in 5 years that's actually announced. They played like a little like Philly basement show that wasn't announced literally the night of the Origami Angel release show.
Oh, I remember that.
Which is a very powerful night just in general for music. I'm assuming that set went a lot better than this set did. So, have y'all seen that video where it's like the house party and there's like a fuck ton of people there and they start playing Mo Bamba and everybody starts going crazy and the floor caves in?
Oh my god. No, but I can imagine.
It's exactly what you think it is. It's just, I mean, it's a bunch of white people jumping around to Mo Bamba and yelling, and then the floor just literally caves in and everybody falls into the basement.
Where were you when the floor caved in?
So Snowing came out. 2 bands played before them. They were like, one was like a straight up punk band and one was like kind of a hardcore band. They were both really sick. Like they were both really dope, but nobody was like exactly opening the pit because obviously it was a bunch of Snowing fans. So like you can picture what they looked like. And Snowing finally came on. I was standing with Tommy, who is the drummer in Sweet Peach, Dree from Third Row Records, and like a couple other friends, just kind of like chilling. We were like right up front, so we were like 5 feet from everything. We could like see everything very clearly. They start with, I think we're in Minsk. Everybody goes fucking nuts. Everybody's jumping around, everybody's screaming, and I can feel the floor like caving. Like I can feel like everything is just like bending. The pipes on the ceiling are shaking. Ooh. Like shit is going insane. And it's not like a house venue or anything. Like it's a very real like place. It was just on the second floor, and I guess there's like a bar down the stairs. So Snowing finishes up the first song, and a dude from the venue comes up from the downstairs, and he gets on the microphone and says, "Hey, it is fucking terrifying downstairs." Like word for word, it is fucking terrifying downstairs. I need you all to spread out and like stop jumping around and like just like chill out, because otherwise like the floor is gonna cave in. We're gonna be fucked. So they play 2 more songs. They play Big Weed and I Think We're Going Underwater, and like those go okay. After both songs though, the dude comes up again and is like, you know, y'all have to stop, spread out, like keep going, or like y'all need to like chill so we can like keep going with the show. And they're playing Kirk Cameron Crow. People are like kind of jumping around again. Like I think the band knew that shit was about to get shut down because there's no way that it was going to go on.
Yeah.
And John's bass like started fucking up. Like the input was just like super low. Like you could kind of hear it, but not really. Like things were just not going well. So about halfway through Kirk Cameron Crow, John Gomm fucking down B's his bass into the goddamn floor.
Oh my god.
Shatters the headstock. Like one of the tuners like falls off, strings break, rips the fucking cable. Like the cable end was sticking out of the bass, but the cable wasn't attached to it. Like ripped the cable and just fucking walked through the crowd and like out of the venue. Like he was pissed, like very clearly like pissed at the whole situation. 4.5 songs in, the rest of the band finishes Kirk Cameron Crow, and then they just start packing up and like leaving. Nobody said anything.
Shit.
Nobody's
Has
like
anyone said anything like on the internet about it? Like anybody from Snowing? Did they like say
There were-
like, a statement or anything?
there were
Not that it
statements
calls for
from
a statement, but
yeah, there were statements from both the venue and from the band on Instagram. And they both basically said, like, yeah, we were really concerned for people's safety. Like, sorry, Snowing had to end early. Like, we know that's obviously not ideal. And, like, but nobody addressed the bass throwing. Like, nobody addressed, like, the anger that was going into that whole thing.
oh my god.
So, like, we all just, like, stood there just, like, basically, like, literally slack-jawed. Like, I have never seen, like, I felt the shock in the room. Like I've never seen so many people like just be like completely in shock, wondering what the fuck was going on. Like I looked at Dree and I was like, "Yo, I think we just saw the last Snowing set ever." Like that shit was just crazy. I'm like honestly like in mild disbelief still that it happened. So like everybody kind of like fucked around in the venue for a while. Nobody said anything over the microphone or anything. They eventually brought the house lights up and everyone was like, well, I guess it's over, and like left. I got a nice picture of the fucking destroyed ass bass.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is always fun. Yeah, we kind of just left. Like I just watched a man rage quit possibly his whole music career, I think.
Oh my god. I hope that they're like okay.
Honestly, I hope that John's okay, because John was clearly like
Yeah.
not happy with the whole situation. I wouldn't have been either, because like
That's big, losing in Smash and throwing your controller against the ground energy.
yeah, but like homie threw the Wiimote through the TV. Like
oh no.
like no wrist straps involved. Like nah, just threw it straight through. I hope he's all right, honestly. Like
Yeah.
I really hope that, like, you know, he calmed down and was, like, feeling all right. But just from where I could see it, like, everybody was kind of, like... Everybody in the band, honestly, looked like they were, like, kind of ready to just be done. Like, not just with the show, but kind of just, like, done, like, as a band.
Yeah.
In a way. So, yeah, that's what happened at what I think might be the last Snowing gig ever last night. That's...
Regardless
my
if it's the
fucking
last
story.
show or not, truly iconic.
Oh, truly iconic. We all, like, it was worth my $12 because I just witnessed fucking emo history.
That's true.
There's a full video of the set that just got posted. It's actually, like, super high quality. Like, they had, like, a camera crew
Oh, that's tight.
recording it. And, like, it's very well recorded, and it's about 15 minutes into the set. Fucking Johnny Smash happens.
So wait, there's a video of it? Of like the
Yeah.
Smash? Of Big
Yeah,
Smash?
I'll send you the link to it.
Oh my word.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. And you can, like literally he just walks through the crowd and you see the guy that he, like, pushed over to, like, walk through, just, like, look at his friend and go, what the fuck was that? So that's my story. I didn't plan on talking about, like, music and shit this much, but, like, I feel like I can't not tell that story, and I feel like a lot of people that I talked to that I was like, fuck, I have to record a podcast about not music tomorrow, and they were like, just tell the story anyway. Like this deserves to be heard.
Definitely, yeah, I'll allow that one. If we're trying not to talk about music, I'd still say that that's a decent story to tell.
Right, exactly. Like it's not every fucking day you watch that shit happen. Like that, I've never actually expected to see somebody have, like, the rock star moment, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, especially in, like, a fit of rage and not, like, staged. Like, it's not like Code Orange fucking smashing their instruments. It's just straight up, like, like, fuck off, like, I'm out of here, like, this band is over shit.
Mostly because everyone I know in, like, DIY and music can't afford to smash their instruments.
Yeah, true. And honestly, judging by what the bass looked like whenever he started, I don't know if John could afford to smash his instrument. Because if you look in the picture, like, the top half of the body is, like, kind of, like, fucked and, like, chopped off. It was like that before.
Okay.
So, like, apparently, like, maybe this wasn't the first time this happened, but, like, it was like that before. Like, it was a pretty fucked up bass to start with.
Maybe it was a publicity stunt, and it was like the trash bass from their house, and they knew that what they were.
They knew what was going on.
That's true. It could have been that.
I get it though, because on the one hand, if they would have started the riff to fucking Shotgun to Beer or like Sam Rudich, that floor was caving in. Like, they easily could have like fucked that venue forever.
Yeah.
If they wanted to like really just like fuck up everybody's day. And like,
Yeah.
I get them like cutting it off for that, but like I didn't expect the rage.
Really similar situation at Coachella 3. We had an after party in the living room, and we had a DJ. And Bryn, who lived downstairs at the time, was in the basement below the living room where all the people were jumping, and ran upstairs and was basically like, the ceiling is breathing. Like, the ceiling is going. It's just like the snowing story where she came back up again and was like, hey, y'all, calm down type beat. And it chilled out. I was still at Howard's, like, cleaning when this happened.
Oh, shit.
Like, I showed up to the house like an hour into the after party and just got like filled in about all the shit that happened.
Oh no.
But the living room is safe. It didn't cave in. There were way too many people in the house. It was a good time.
Just Shaq things.
Just Shaq things.
All right. So I was planning on like 10 minutes to talk about music shit before last night. Now we're at about 20. So let's get right into it. We're going to talk to Conor about some shit that's not music, something that Conor's interested in, and I'm going to let him start out, like, intro what he's going to talk about.
So I spend a lot of time thinking about like human interaction, social psychology, just like how people's actions are interpreted, each person's like individual reality, like based on how they perceive certain things that happen. I didn't go to school for this. I was a healthcare administration major. I graduated with applied health science and a focus in healthcare administration. Took like 3 psych classes. Didn't take any social classes. Like, took a few philosophy classes because this touches on that a little bit. A lot of this is just like me reading books and like reading studies and just like my personal conjecture and my personal experiences surrounding things. So this is not fact. This is not stuff that you should take 100% to heart. This is literally just like my conjecture and things that I think about, things that me and my friends have talked about over the years, things that I've talked about with my therapist, just like all revolving around like your place in social groups, essentially, and like how you can influence that and how you can understand other people who are different than you in social groups. I'm going to ramble a lot, probably. I've talked about these like a tons of times, but I've never like tried to put them in an order that makes sense. I guess these are just a lot of like different topics that I like to touch on. And one of the things that like helped me a lot, like above anything else, is coming to the understanding that nobody owes you anything, no matter what you've done for them, no matter what you think they owe you or what you think is owed to you in any situation. No one has to do anything for you. They really don't. Like, ultimately, people are about self-preservation. People are about ensuring their own safety and things like that. And if, like, you know, you might have done someone 10 favors, but that doesn't mean that they have to do anything for you. Like,
Yeah.
And coming to terms with that helped me not resent people, because people have different expectations for what a relationship is and what a friendship is.
Right.
You know, you driving someone to work could mean the world to someone and could mean nothing to someone else. And it's all about how that action is perceived by that individual. Like, someone, you know, you drive someone 5 minutes to work. It's no big deal for you, and it could be a huge deal for them. Or like, you could go out of your way for someone for 20 minutes and they might think that it's owed to them. You know what I mean? So just like coming to terms with the fact that nobody owes you anything makes it so that you can find other people who have a desire to do good things for their friends and a desire to do good things for other people without expectation. because within expectation, like resentment brews, and resentment is like a very big factor in like unhappiness.
I can see that.
That's one of like that's like my big. That's my big. If you're gonna take anything from anything that I say, understand that nobody owes you anything, and that you want to find people who want to do nice things for you because they want to do nice things for you, not because of an expectation. But yeah, so the big thing that I guess I wanted to talk about, and when I quote tweeted your tweet about doing this, was selfish altruism, which kind of ties into the same thing of no one owes you anything. And I spent like, I'm luckily like I'm very privileged. I'm a white male. My mom is a very hardworking person. She's made a good life for herself. So a lot of these stances are coming from a place of privilege. So take that into account as well. I have the ability to go to therapy. I have a job in which I have insurance that can help pay for my therapy. If you have the means to do so, I highly recommend talking to someone, even if you don't think you need it. Vocalizing your thoughts and being in an environment in which you are not being judged, if you have a good therapist, is beneficial for everybody. I firmly believe that. And if you don't have the ability to go to a therapist, find a friend who, sorry, I'm at emotional capacity, scripts, jokes aside, which scripts are useful. I really do think scripts are useful, especially for people who can't respond on the fly. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Checking in with your friends to make sure that they do have the emotional capacity to deal with something if you are going to unload on them is a good thing to do. That script was kind of whack, the one that got popular. But
infamous, maybe.
the infamous I am at capacity right now script
got popular because it was whack.
Yeah, honestly. But selfish altruism, it's the idea that nothing you do can be inherently altruistic because there are social benefits that come from doing a nice thing. You know, people will look at you differently. People will perceive you differently. People will have a positive outlook of you if you continue to do these nice things. However, does having the awareness of the positive benefits that come from good actions make those actions inherently not good because you are inherently being selfish because you are looking out for yourself and others' perception of you being a good person?
So it's just like the concept that there's no like true good deed. It's just like you're always doing it out of like the concept that you're going to be rewarded in some way.
Exactly. And that's like a hard thing to come to terms with because like I try to do a lot of nice things for people. I try to like go out of my way for people who I think, not necessarily that everybody, like some people don't deserve nice things, but like if I know a good person and I know they need something and I have the means to do the thing, I'm going to do the thing. You know what I mean? If it doesn't put me out too much, I'm going to do the thing. And that like yields inherent rewards socially. You know, people will know that you're doing nice things for people. But like social media comes into that play as well. Like performative generosity is really weird to me. If I don't try to post about shit that I do for people online because that feels that's where like selfish altruism comes into like a weird like putting yourself on a pedestal type thing. I don't know. Yeah. I haven't thought about or talked about that a lot just because I just shit post on the internet.
There's no good posting.
Exactly.
No posts are good. There is no good posting.
Yeah. So I read a book once called Social, funnily enough, and it talked about this concept a lot. And I never knew that this concept had a name. I struggled with it a lot personally, but I never knew that it was like talked about or, you know, in studies. And they basically did a number of studies where they determined that, and I think a lot of people know this, that when you do good things for people, your brain rewards you. Your brain is like, hey, you did a good thing. Here's good boy chemicals. You're going to feel good about this thing. So like the understanding that you might be getting a benefit out of doing something nice for somebody else.
That just like
I'm losing my train of thought here.
Understanding that you get that benefit is just like always like a subconscious thing.
Yeah. It's always going to be there. And you have to think that like no matter your intention for doing a good thing, if it is only a good thing that you are doing, regardless of your intention behind it, you are still putting good out into the world. And like I don't necessarily believe in like karma or like aura or anything like that, but I do firmly believe that like the energy, I guess this is aura if you look at it that way, the energy that you give off as an individual is a culmination of all of your actions. Your unconscious energy that you exhibit, the vibes that you get from people or your gut feelings that you get about people are usually pretty on point, I think. Obviously there's a lot of anomalies in that situation, but I think that the energy that you give off and the way people perceive you is a sum of your actions. And that if you go out with the intention of doing good things, people will perceive you unconsciously as a better person and therefore want to be a better person themselves. It's kind of like the whole pay it forward thing. Like if you're, someone's having a really shitty day at their fast food job in the morning and you're grabbing your coffee and a breakfast sandwich from McDonald's and they're like rude to you over the intercom. They sound short, they sound shitty, whatever. They're having a bad day. Everybody has bad days. I feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's two situations that can unfold. You go up to the window and you return that energy. You return that negativity to them. And you're shitty to them and you reinforce their negative mood. Or you can understand that that person is having a bad day and that there's no need for you to try to make their day worse. You can be overtly polite to them, even if you don't think that they deserve it. They didn't deserve your politeness because they weren't being polite to you. Whereas you can be polite to them, go that little extra step to like be courteous and actually influence how they treat the rest of the customers in the line and influence their tiny little bubble of like, oh, I had a really nice person at, my McDonald's today when I went and got my coffee, and that they'll think about that for 15 minutes as they drive to work.
Mm-hmm.
And be in a better mood and be unconsciously smiling when they walk into the office and they, walk into a coworker, and instead of frowning because they had a negative interaction, they're smiling because they had a positive interaction, and it creates another positive interaction in the workplace. And then that coworker who had a positive interaction with that person goes off to have another positive interaction because it does carry in waves through people doing nice things. So like, I think even if you're having a bad day, this is a totally different concept, but don't be rude to people, because you can create positive change, especially in your environment, through consistency by being a good person to people whenever you can. Another thing that this goes into is when you see, like, it's a really dumb old classic saying, but I think it's like very, very true. If you meet an asshole in the morning, you met an asshole. If you meet an asshole all day, you're probably an asshole. I know there's some better way to say it. There's like shit on your shoe or some version of that saying. But if you have a routinely bad day the entire day, like obviously there's going to be a day where you might just run into 4 shitters in a row. You know what I mean? You can't fight that.
Yeah.
But if it's happening every day, constantly, and you've constantly got conflicts with multiple different people, I think that you should maybe redirect your energy inward and redirect your thought process inward and be a little more introspective and understand that maybe you are creating these negative interactions and that you have the ability to change your views, your perception. You can frame things differently and interpret things differently because you can literally trick your brain. You can placebo your brain into believing anything. You can trick your brain into feeling good, like through consistency. Like I struggle a lot with anxiety and depression. I'm on medication for it, and I have good days and bad days. And there's days where no matter how good I want to feel, I can't feel good. You know what I mean? And that's normal. That's fine. That's accepted by a lot of people. But as long as you're with the mindset that if you have the ability to frame something differently and you have the energy in yourself to do so, try to do it, because you will notice 3 months in, if you start to slowly change your mindset, that the people around you start to change their mindset as well. And that you're slowly building your own community of positive thinking people who understand what it means to create a good environment and to be good to the people around them without expectation.
That's something that, like, as soon as you like pointed out that like the interactions around you change the people around you and like change like what it is, like the more I'm thinking of like times where I was like more positive and times that I was like more negative and like stuff like that. So like as like a background, like my sophomore year of college, I was about 60 pounds heavier than I am now.
Mm-hmm.
It got me into like a bit of like a depression cycle. Like things were pretty negative. And eventually I just decided I was fed up with it. And I started like working out, losing weight, like becoming more positive towards myself. Mm-hmm. That in itself like helped my like mentality as far as like knowing that I'm improving myself. But I also noticed that like as I was going forward, like because I was interacting with the same people every day because I was in school. And I was like specialized in my major at that point. So all of my classes had the same people in it. My interactions with those people started feeling better just because of that. And because like I felt more positive about it, like it got to where I felt like, you know, I was just generally like doing better. Like I was, you know, doing better in school, doing better in my relationships overall, doing better with like friendships and stuff like that. And just like those two periods of my life, or two like pre get your shit together and post get your shit together, was like, are like two very distinct like moments for me. Like there's a very like distinct dividing line, and that makes a lot of sense. Like looking at what you're talking about.
Yeah, just like awareness of how you present yourself and awareness of how you interpret things can make a huge difference, especially through consistency. Like, it's funny that you say like losing weight and working out, because like I kind of like started to understand how I wanted to like do things and how I wanted to present myself, how I wanted to be as an individual. But I really didn't start to like understand how to like love myself until I started like going to the gym and getting those new chemicals, those new good boy chemicals from like ripping muscles and like working hard and doing something consistently. That like type of routine really does kind of like, because I mean, it inherently gives you like a mental process, because you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again in like sets. So it's a very good time to like think about yourself and to like focus on you and how you're feeling and how your body is feeling. Like I'm not a very good meditator. I can't meditate. I love driving. And while I'm driving, especially if I'm driving by myself, sometimes I'll drive for 2 hours with no music, no podcast, no nothing, just so I can sit there and think or not think, you know?
Yeah, I've definitely like done like similar things as well, where you just like going back to the gym thing. I'm in a gym a lot. I work in a gym. I have an exercise science degree, so like I can relate to working out a lot. So like going back to the gym thing, like there are days like that where like I'll just put my headphones in and like start listening to music or whatever, but like it'll stop and like it'll pause for whatever reason, or like I'll pause it or something like that, and I just won't turn it back on. Like that's like, it gets me into that like mindset where I'm just like not thinking about anything. It's just like, you know, going through the workout, going with the run or whatever I was doing at the time, and like you just don't think, and it's very cathartic.
Yeah, for me, I don't go to the gym or drive, but when when I'm crocheting, like the same thing will happen. Like I'll be like, you know, working on whatever it is I'm working on and like listening to a podcast or something, and then the podcast will just stop, and it's like the only thing that there is to focus on is getting this like tangible thing that you made after you're done with it. And then in the meantime, you just kind of like sit there and think about nothing, and it's like, yeah, like you said, very cathartic.
It seems like the ability to be in silence, I feel like, is very underrated. Like I feel like a lot of people like do just like need like some constant like stimulation, and I think as a society we've moved towards like a bigger state of constant stimulation with like, you know, videos and Netflix and all that. But like the ability to just like sit down, like do some menial task or something like that. Like I'll do it when I like set up my guitars. Like I won't put anything on, and like just do like a menial task and just like not think about anything, have something to like distract your hands or something like that, and just like be in that meditative state but not actively being meditating, I think is like a very underrated thing. I think more people should like try and find something that they can do like that.
Yeah. There's like so many ways you can do that too. Like you just have to, like, you know, it took me years to figure out that crocheting did that for me. Like you just have to like keep trying to find that like one thing that you're like. I know for my sister it's cooking, and for my mom it's painting, and like everyone just has their different like thing.
It's literally they're all different forms of like mindfulness.
Yeah.
Mindfulness exercises literally just revolve around like focusing on the current, focusing on the present. You're not dwelling on the past and you're not stressing about the future. You are literally just existing in the moment that you're presented with. And I definitely do think that I'm better at mindfulness than I am at like meditating. But I do think that there's a little bit of overlap between the two. Working out, doing like Ben, what you were saying, doing like a mundane task, like setting up your guitars, or like doing something routine oriented, like knitting or crocheting, are like really good mindfulness exercises. And that is like a very good process. I think that especially like Ben was saying, with like everyone's attention span, especially mine, being very short, like shorter videos, harder hitting things, like shorter songs, you know, not to get back into music, but like shorter videos and shorter songs are the things that get shared more and more have more viral capacity. So people are inherently drawn to smaller and smaller sections of things. So you can just switch between, you can watch one cute dog video for 6 seconds and then watch another cute dog video for 6 seconds, like Vine culture and TikTok culture and stuff like that made being mindful, I think, 10 times more important. Because, you go back to the whatever teen hundreds and everyone's just sitting around flicking their bean and churning butter, tending to the field. They get to be mindful all goddamn day long.
Poor thing.
And God, for real.
It's unfortunate.
And that wasn't even like a thing that I had down as like something I want to talk about, but like mindfulness is very, very cool, very, very hip. All the kids, if you're listening, practice mindfulness exercises. It is the basis for, I think, being okay with yourself.
Yes, for sure.
All right. So back to like the social psych and like selfish altruism stuff. As far as like doing good deeds for like other people and like expecting like that sense of the good boy chemicals, whether you feel that or not, I think that's something that like a lot of people will just think to themselves that they're like a naturally good person, or like like some other people will think like this person is like naturally good. What do you think of that? Do you think like natural good is a thing, or do you think it's still like subconscious, like hoping for those chemicals, hoping for the serotonin or whatever, or dopamine?
If you've ever seen The Good Place, they've got a good bit about this. It's like the last person to get into the good place was this person who was just like a pushover. They did nothing but good things and were nothing but accommodating for everybody around them. But it was through like a huge amount of like self-sacrifice. I think they portrayed it by like this kid coming over and be like, "Hey, you idiot, give me your shirt." And he's like, "Oh, we got to give my shirt to this nice boy." The way the good place is calculated, he gets those good points for giving a boy a shirt that they want. And I think that a lot of times you can do a good thing through self-sacrifice, but you probably shouldn't. And that can come off as like selfish. Like if your friend wants to vent about something and you don't have, like going back to the script, if your friend wants to vent about something and you don't have the emotional energy to do it, but you make yourself depressed because you feel like you need to deal with this person. And when you're already dealing with something internally yourself, you take on more than you can handle and you end up hurting yourself and therefore hurting the people around you. So I think that while you were being a good person for this one person, and doing like the natural good thing, by not being selfish and by not thinking about yourself, you can create more negative than good. So I mean, it's very, very subjective, and it differs from individual to individual because a lot of people perceive actions differently than others. A lot of people, like everyone's reality is different. You could talk to someone for 5 minutes, how they perceive your interaction. You could be like, "Oh wow, that was a lot of like fun conversation. I really liked that person." And the other person could go home and be anxious about all the things that were said and like think that it was like a stressful conversation and that you don't like them because they have a lot of anxiety. So like reality is purely subjective. It is purely through your lens and your view of the world. So therefore good is subjective as well. So like I don't think there is like a natural good. I think that you should aim for yourself first. And when you're content with things that help others, you kind of said like natural good, and it makes me just think of like the D&D alignments: chaotic evil, chaotic neutral, chaotic good.
Connor Allen, chaotic good confirmed.
Kind of. I think I'd be okay with chaotic good.
Chaotic good is pretty good. Chaotic good is probably the most interesting thing to be.
As long as I'm not lawful, I'm set.
Facts.
I'll be God, imagine lawful evil. I don't even know, like just like a bad paladin. I don't know. This is something that kind of goes into this as well, and this is more like based in the social psychology and like interpersonal relationships. Everyone has different standards for what they believe their relationship should be, their friendship should be. A lot of people some people have very few friends. They have like 3 or 4 very close friends, but those very close friends are very like intense relationships. They're talking all day. They tell each other everything. And for them, any friendship needs to be that because that's what their view of friendship is. And then there's a lot of other people who, like the people that you see like, oh, that person has a ton of friends, but they might not have any close friends like that they do have that intense personal relationship with. So sometimes, if you're a very social person and you meet somebody especially if you're like very extroverted, it's very easy for you to like kind of mesh with whoever. And you might meet like a very introverted person that you become friends with. And your mentality of a friendship is like keeping in contact every now and again and just like being pals. You know what I mean? You know, like not necessarily like an acquaintance, but not necessarily a close friend. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that other person might think that by being friends with them, they need to have that emotional intensity and being super close and knowing everything about each other. So I think that coming to the understanding that there are different expectations that people have for different friendships is something that I think a lot of people could benefit from.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times when I see, I've been, since I was a kid, always been that person that people are like, oh, I can tell Conor everything. So people tell me lots of things. And so like therefore I get like wrapped up in like interpersonal conflicts, and have since become like a decent mediator and like a good communicator in terms of like getting people to be honest with themselves and the other person, because a lot of times it just boils down to miscommunication and misguided expectations because of different expectations for the relationship. So I think being honest about those things and being able to, whether through messaging or through, you know, talking in person, being able to convey those things to others, like what your expectations are, is healthy. And I think that it's something that could be more normalized.
Mm-hmm.
Because like talking about anxiety and talking about depression, especially now, like personality disorders, are, at least in our very leftist music alternative scene that we're, you know, our bubble that we're involved in, those things are becoming normalized. And I think that's very cool, because like I was playing a gig once and I had, you know, known somebody online and then met them at the gig. And like during the set, whenever I make eye contact with a friend, it's usually like off to the side, and it's usually like another drummer buddy who's watching me, and I'll always like wink, just like, you know, wink at my pal. And I did that to somebody who I realized afterwards I'm not like super close with. And I was like, oh shit, like how did they perceive that? And so I literally messaged them later and I was like, yo, I don't know if you saw this, but like I winked at you during a set, and I realized how that, like now, how that could come off because we don't know each other very well. I do that as just like a thing that I do when I make eye contact with people while I'm playing, because it doesn't happen very often. And if I make eye contact with someone, it's usually a homie. I hope that didn't make you uncomfortable. I just wanted to like explain myself. I have a lot of anxiety and I'm laying in bed thinking of anxiety, obsessing over this thing. And I just wanted to like convey that to you. And they were like, oh my God, I do the same thing. You're totally fine. I didn't take it that way. Like, thank you for voicing that. And I don't think that was something that happened, at least when I was a kid. It could just be with getting older. It could be changing with like the times. But I like that people can be open about things like that. People can be open about their anxiety, be open about their depression. You know, if you message a friend and they're like, hey, do you want to come out? And they could be like, no, I'm like feeling very introverted and I'm feeling very kind of want to be alone, which can be an unhealthy thing if you know, like you're isolating. But if you're being honest about that, I think that that's a good thing, because it gives people scope for how you're feeling. It gives people, you know, it leaves less room for miscommunication and misinterpretation. And it ultimately just boils down to like being honest with people. And if you're honest with someone and they don't react well, then that's probably not someone that you want to be friends with. So you can kind of weed out negative people by being relentlessly honest with everyone and keeping the people around who like appreciate that.
That's something I've noticed that I've struggled with before. I tend to be kind of like a people pleaser, and like being around like where I'm at. So I'm in like the DMV, and we've got like a lot of bands, a lot of gigs that happen like a lot. And it's like pretty frequently you'll see somebody like coming through and being like, oh, I'm playing a gig, like you should come out. And like the day of, I will just tank and like just not be feeling like being anywhere at the moment. And like I find it very hard to like say that to somebody, especially if they're somebody that like you don't see very often. Like,
oh yeah,
because like I guess an example of this is like you know, like a band that like I'm pretty close with and have gotten a lot closer with in like the recent past came through DC one day, and like I had to work till 7. Usually on days that I work late, I end up just kind of like overthinking stuff, just because like I'm sitting in like a generally empty gym behind a desk for 8 hours. And yeah, so like I generally end up like just thinking about stuff, and it's like sometimes I'll get in my own head. So like even like in the morning I'll be like, okay, I'm so excited, like I'm so hyped to see you, like this is gonna be sick. And then like during the day I'll just tank, and I don't want to like, I struggle to like tell people that. I know I should just be honest and be like, yo, sorry, I'm having a bad mental health day. And fortunately, we're in like a scene where people will understand that,
Mm-hmm.
even if it is like a bummer. And I think people obviously do view it as a bummer,
Mm-hmm.
just depending on the person. But like, I struggle with like disappointing people by being honest sometimes.
Yeah. I have like, so, you know, I'm on tour, like I'm home basically like for like 2 weeks every 2 months.
Sounds
And
about right.
yeah, that's like pretty accurate. Home is New Jersey for me, and I have a bunch of friends who are like, you know, from New Jersey who I've known from like growing up, or, you know, just people that I've met over the years. And like I have like a really hard time getting out to see them sometimes because it's like I never have any time to myself. So when I do, I kind of get in my own head and I'm like, okay, like I need to be by myself right now. And then I have trouble like voicing that to like my friends who want me to like, you know, kind of come out, and because they're like, well, like you're never here, why aren't you putting in the effort to like come hang, when really it's just like I can't do it right now. And it always like has me feeling kind of guilty because it's, you know, they're not people who are involved in our scene, and it's kind of difficult to understand like if you're not, you know, on tour all the time. And yeah, I don't know. I guess that just kind of has me feeling pretty like guilty every once in a while, but like you also have to, you know, take care of yourself and make sure that you're doing like what's right for you.
Yeah, especially with your job though, because like you're a TM, your job is the communicator.
Yeah.
You are the middle person between everyone that is involved with a tour, the venue, the sound person, the light person, the band, the other band. Like your job is to make sure that people are communicating adequately, and that is like very draining.
Yeah.
Especially when you do it for 2 months in a row, you dink.
Yeah. That's true. 2 months in a row. Got to learn how to communicate. Like, I don't know. That's another thing, is communicating and voicing your concerns to like both a group of people and individuals within that group of people changes depending on the group of people. So
yeah, that was actually something I wrote down that I wanted to talk about.
So like you have to kind of adjust yourself. Like every tour I go on, I have to like, it takes me like a couple of days to kind of feel like, how is this group communicating? Like what is the best way to like voice concerns to this group in particular, and stuff like that. And then, you know, there's within the group of people that you're with, there's that dynamic, but there's also that like learning that dynamic with other, like the people, that group of people that you have to communicate with and how they communicate. You know, we out here trying not to talk about music, and here we are.
Ellie, you'll really like this. In that book that I talked about earlier called Social, I'm going to recommend it again to everybody. Read it. It's fucking interesting.
Who's the author of that book?
Oh, goodness. It's a psychologist. They do a bunch of studies. Let me look up.
You don't have, you can text me later, but
it'll be good to have recorded, I guess, just in case somebody wants to check it out.
Social, Why Our Brains Are Wired to Connect. It is by Matthew D. Lieberman. It is a phenomenal book. It is $6.50 according to this website.
You know, I just realized I've read that book.
It's so good.
I read it in one of my classes in college. I think it might have been college writing.
So
like a freshman level class, way back when, and we had to talk about that. I think it was college writing that we like had to like do like an informational essay and stuff like that about it, and like the professor was just like very interested in that.
It's a great book.
Yeah, I don't remember too much about it, but I definitely like the points that you're hitting are like familiar to me.
Mm-hmm. And this is what Ellie was just saying, and what I wanted to touch on is that like before we had the internet and before we had cell phones and like communication constantly, like most people have their phone on them all the time. They're communicating constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And the social area of our brain, the part of our brain that organizes and compartmentalizes social interactions, has been getting consistently bigger over the last like 200 years as technology has advanced. Because if you think about it, when you're living in a small community and most people are communicating by horseback and mail, if they're communicating with someone outside that they, like outside of their community, you're managing maybe the personal connections, so that part of your brain doesn't need to be enormous, because you kind of know, you live in a small town, you kind of get how everyone interacts with each other, and the dynamics of the small town, you deal with it every day. That Denise doesn't like, Daniel, and Daniel is only rude if Catherine's around. I don't know, like you get that because that's just how people are. Like if you look at your family, if you go to dinner and you sit with all your family, your family dynamic, and how they interact with each other and how the status quo changes based on who's there. Mm-hmm. But like with phones and with media, specifically social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you have, for every extra connection that you have. So like if you look at, you look on Facebook, you look at how many mutual friends you have with somebody. And like, granted, some of those might just be Facebook online friends and you don't interact with them a ton. But like Trey, for example, I'm sitting in Trey's house in his room on his computer right now. Trey and I have like 500 something mutual friends on Facebook just because we know so many of the same people. Mm-hmm. We need to not only understand our relationship with those people, we need to understand those people's relationships with each other, and like the exponential growth that happens every time you meet someone new. And you need to understand how they fit into your social group of people that you're not only learning how you interact, and you have to learn, and your brain has to compartmentalize how they interact with every single other person that you mutually interact with, so that you can understand best how to present. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like that part of our brain has been growing so much in recent years. And they did a big study on that in the book. And like the number of connections that we need to understand the dynamic of is like honestly staggering. It's kind of like I wish I had like the book in front of me and I could cite it. But there's like 5 or 6 pages on it. They talk about like 2 different studies they did to help like measure these things. And like, it's insane how much our brains need to understand to be adequately social as like social mm-hmm. creatures. And it's only getting more and more like prevalent as social media and interaction with people that live hundreds and thousands of miles away continue to be more normal.
Yeah.
So like, it's a really cool concept. It's a really cool thing that I love trying to understand. And I think in a weird way, it's kind of correlated. And again, this is all personal conjecture. Do not cite me. I am not a doctor. I think that it has a lot to do with like social media influencers being very depressed. People who have millions and millions of followers that they interact with on a daily basis, but yet don't have any like personal connections with them. You're getting the benefit of influencing people and talking to people and like getting your words out there, but like you don't know any of those people. Yeah. And like, so your brain is getting part of the good boy chemicals and not all of them. And so like it creates like this very weird dynamic of like the empty mindless social media influencer and stuff like that. And there's like cool documentaries coming out on stuff like that right now, which like the next 10 years, oh my God, dude, the next 10 years of social psychology studies that are going to come out are going to be so fucking good. Because like MySpace, when did MySpace come out?
Like
early 2000s.
Yeah, 2004-ish.
MySpace release date August 2003. So in let's say 2025, we'll have 20-year studies. 20-year studies on the effects of MySpace.
That's insane.
That's crazy
to think of. That's crazy just to think about.
I can't wait for long-term studies on social media and the effects on the human brain, because our brains have never been changing faster because of the amount of stimulus we get.
All right. So we're at about an hour right now. So I think we should probably start wrapping up a little bit. Connor, do you have anything else to like say? Anything, any like closing remarks, anything like that? This has all been really interesting. Like definitely like it's definitely made me think more about like social interaction and especially social media.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, do you have anything?
Be good to yourself And once you're good to yourself, be good to your friends. We're very minuscule. We cannot make change. Well, we can. I'm not going to tell people that they can't make change at a global level. But I'm being honest with my expectations of myself and the things that I think I can accomplish. And I don't think I can have influence on like a global or a national scale. But I think that I can be good to the people that I'm around. And I think that by doing my best, using my privilege to be good to the people around me, they will start to be good to the people around them, and that we can slowly have like a grassroots people being nice movement. But like not being hippies. Yeah. I've never seen that show, but I'll agree because I don't know.
it basically it got canceled before the last season, but the end of it was, the whole concept was that Earl makes a list of like people that he like previously wronged and like goes out to help them. But the scripted end that never actually happened was that like Earl would go out and find a whole bunch of other people that also had made lists because they helped him or because he helped them.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. My heart. I love that.
It's a surprisingly heartwarming show. Like it's definitely got like its moments. Like it's kind of I'm trying to think like what a good comparison would be, and I really don't have one. But it's like it's basically like there's a lot of like redneck humor in it. But it's basically just about this hick that like he loses a lottery ticket. He loses a winning lottery ticket and then gets hit by a car, and he like watches, I think it's like a Carson Daly episode or something like that, where somebody was talking about karma, and he like makes a list of all the people that wronged him because he feels like the reason he got hit by, or that he wronged, because he feels like the reason that he got hit by the car was because he didn't deserve the lottery ticket. And like it kind of like rolls back into that whole like pay it forward kind of concept basically, and it ran for a few seasons, and it actually is like a very good show to watch. I would recommend it as kind of an inspiring thing, especially if you like The Good Place.
Yeah, I love The Good Place and Parks and Rec. Very wholesome, very good shows for me.
Mm-hmm. But not to advertise for My Name is Earl. But yeah.
I mean, I'm probably gonna watch it. I really like that concept.
It's definitely very interesting. Like it's like episodic in that like every episode he's like going to help somebody else on the list.
Yeah.
And like it runs into like interesting problems too. Like there's an episode where is like looking to check something off the list, but like he finds it personally like impossible. So like he's tempted to like not cross it off the list despite the fact that his entire goal is to complete it and stuff like that. So like it tackles like that kind of like social issue in like a good, like well packaged, like humorous way.
Cool.
Yeah, I think my mom really likes that show.
I used to watch it. It was probably around that MySpace time, like early 2000s. So I used to watch it around then.
Ads for it.
Mm-hmm. So I think that would probably be a good place to stop. Let's do the standard social media plugs. So Connor, go ahead and go first.
Follow the Summit Shack, and if you want to see shit posts, follow my personal. The Summit Shack is at Summit Shack. My personal is at Kin Arcade, and arcade is spelled with a K, KINARKADE. Snowchella is coming up January 25th. Snowchella 4 is coming up April 17th and 18th. Swordfest 2, Shieldfest is coming Sunday, June 7th. And then Fochella 5 is April 16th to April 18th. It's 3 days. Jesus. It's going to be in 2021. That's a long way away. No point in talking about it right now, but mark your calendars. There's going to be fun things happening.
And also, Fochella 4.
I already said that one.
Did you say? No, you didn't say that one. You said
Snowchella, Fochella, and Shieldfest.
If you want to see all, sorry.
Connor's my work cousin. We get in spats.
Truly.
It's okay. If you want to see all three of us come to Snowchella, I believe all three of us are going to be there.
Yeah, fun
so
time.
That's gonna be sick. Ellie?
I am Ellie Hart. You can follow me at Lead DIY. That's LEADDIY. At We're Around Music. It's straight up just WEREAROUND music. And my personal, if you want to hear me complain about everything and dueling, is LEELLIE _ heart HART _ THO. Cool. That's it. That's what I got.
Yeah. I'm on Twitter at alpaca neb, animal like the animal alpaca, and then NEB. Also follow my band at Sweet Peach MD.
Can't vouch. Good band.
We went back to school and got our medical degree. Wow, nobody ever laughs at that.
I'm easy to please. Love those good low effort jokes.
Oh, super low effort. So at Sweet Peach MD, if you want to follow this podcast, I believe the @ is at no #1 cares cast.
That's a pretty good one. Nice.
And this is actually our first episode, so we're gonna hopefully get some more of these going for Ellie Hart's brief tenure where she's actually home. We're gonna try and record a bunch, and I think probably next one we'll be interviewing each other.
Yeah.
Ooh.
When we have the time, because we need kind of an episode 0, and we need people to know what we're interested in, since we're going to be talking to a whole bunch of people about what they're interested in.
Can you have Roddy talk about Da Baby?
Roddy wants to talk about Playboy Cardi, actually.
Oh, I was in the right realm.
You were close. I think it might. Honestly, that was a while ago. Roddy might want to talk about Da Baby now.
Roddy should talk about weed. Who are we kidding?
I would pay an exorbitant amount of money to hear Roddy talk about anything. Literally.
There. I have a whole wish list of guests, and a decent portion of them are already like at least interested.
Hell yeah!
So
I'm excited.
I think coming up, we're gonna have an episode about how Fortnite is the death of art.
Oh, disagree. Hard disagree. Call me in as a panelist. I'll give a 5-minute excerpt on why you're.
Well, we'll throw you in. We'll throw you in as a special guest co-host for that one.
I love Fortnite. It taught me how to dance. Fortnite is the birth of culture.
This is just going to be an 8-person conversation by the end of this podcast, because I can't say no to people co-hosting. All right. I think that's good. So, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Connor, for coming onto the cast. Thank you, Ellie, for co-hosting with me. This has been a good time. I think it's a good first episode.
Hell yeah.
Yes, for sure. All right. Signing off.
Cool. Good times.
Bye. Okay.
See ya.
No.